So today's going to be a little interactive as well. So I was thinking maybe we can all share, well, our names and how we're feeling today. It's Saturday, it's the end of a long week. And, you know, people either working from home or not being able to work. So just processing feelings. And then because our topic today is going to be how to give and receive love languages at this specific time, what is one challenge that you're experiencing right now in either communicating or sharing love with your loved ones? And it doesn't have to be romantic partners. It could be your roommate, it could be your friends, could be your family members or your partners, whoever. Maybe no more than a minute per person. I can go first. I can model that. So my name is Ginevra, and I am feeling, well, physically exhausted, but mentally inspired and refreshed. I just got out of my period, and so I'm like, yeah, I'm not in a crazy woman quarantine mode, but now my body's tired, but at least mentally I'm doing well. And one challenge that I'm sharing with expressing love, giving or receiving love, is that one of my main love languages is physical touch, and obviously that's lacking. And also I love doing things for people, like cooking for people and helping people out, like in a practical way. And I feel like that's also been taken away from me. So I'm receiving a lot in terms of care and messages and words, and I feel like I'm not giving back enough. So that's something that I'm struggling with. I was thinking, because my idea later is to divide into different rooms and share more about each other love languages after I talk about them. Maybe now we can just keep it a little bit shorter and just share about challenges that you're experiencing in general in giving, receiving with other people. And then later, for the sake of time, when we're in the chat rooms, we can share more about how we give and receive. Wanted to thank you everyone for sharing. I really thought that this time it was important to just allow everyone to have an outlet for saying how we're feeling, especially in terms of communicating with others, because we all communicate, we all give and receive love differently. And depending on our peculiar circumstances, we're all going to experience different challenges at this time. Like it's a globally difficult moment, like for the whole planet. And then each of us individually, we have our own specific history. So I think it was important for everyone to say where they're at and just knowing that. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the love languages and go more in depth. And I mean, it sounds like from what you guys have shared that most of you already know what love languages are, and perhaps even what your love language is. But just wanted to do a very quick overview of the main 5 love languages, which are it's a theory that was expressed in a book, The 5 Love Languages, by a family marriage counselor, I think about 10-15 years ago, and it became extremely popular. And he theorized that we all are able to give and receive love at different levels, in a different capacity, through 5 main love languages, which are words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service. And so going very briefly over them. Words of affirmation is basically when we communicate to each other, when we either give or receive, we encourage, we appreciate, we empathize with the other person through words. It could be sending a text, an email, a card, and just giving encouragement to the other person. And physical touch kind of talks by itself. It's using body language and nonverbal cues to emphasize love. It could be hugging, kissing, holding hands, making touching intimacy a priority, but it's also how to show affection in public. Like some people highly appreciate or really don't appreciate that when it happens in public. Giving and receiving gifts. It's basically thinking about what someone would like to receive and giving that in a gifting form. Like little gestures, it could be flowers. It doesn't have to be expensive gifts. It's just letting the other person know, or the other person is letting us know that they're thinking about us with this symbol. And quality time, it's, you know, really like uninterrupted and focused attention with the other person. It doesn't necessarily have to be a conversation. It could be spending time doing an activity that both people feel nourished from, or doing an activity that only you or only your partners or loved ones feel nourished from, and giving that to each other. Kind of like creating special memories together. It could be a mini holiday, a weekend getaway, take a walk together, watching a movie, like really doing things together. And the last one is act of service, which is kind of on the other hand of the spectrums for word of appreciation, which is doing something for the other person, but not together. Like, my car is broken, I need my car to get fixed. A friend of mine who knows about cars give me their time by fixing my car. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they receive love, right? By they show me love by doing an act of service. So these in brief are the 5 love languages. And something important to note is I wanted to do a couple of things. Like, I have the feeling that sometimes people, or generally, like as a culture, we can simplify love languages. Simplify love languages, thinking that we often hear like, what's your main love languages? What's your 3 main love languages? And I think that what's important to know is that our love languages vary throughout time and within circumstances. So for specific circumstances, I might better receive a gift, or I might better receive a hug, but it really depends on what time of my life I'm at, what time of my menstrual cycle I'm at. Like, I love touch, and when I'm PMS, like, please don't touch me. What time of the year, what time of the day, if someone is like, you know, someone is far away, like in this situation. So really, like, love languages, they vary throughout time and throughout life circumstances. So what could have been true a month ago doesn't necessarily ring true right now. And then something else that I've noticed is that in talking with people is we often focus a lot on how we receive love languages. Like, when we say, oh, my main love languages are da da da, we talk about how we receive, and it doesn't necessarily ring true for how we give love languages. And then we have to take into consideration that our loved ones, our families, our partners, our friends, they also give and receive differently. So when, even in a one-on-one conversation, with a one-on-one connection, there is really 4 aspects to take into consideration, which is, how does one person receive and give? How does the other person receive and give? So here, from like just 5 love languages, we get to 20 love languages. Person A, 10 love languages, and person B, 10 love languages. So it becomes a lot more complicated than just, oh, my 1 or 2 or 3 love languages are, right? And what the author of the book really emphasizes in the 5 love languages, in his theory, is that in order to make our connections meaningful, it's not really important how we receive or how we give, but what the other person within the connection, how do they receive, and what makes them happy giving. Because when we focus on how the other person receives and gives, then we're able, like, it's really like love languages, it's really about being attentive to what the other person needs and what we need, and also behavioral self-modification, which I feel like is something maybe we don't really talk about as often, is how do we modify our behavior so that our love is received by the other person. So I can give like a quick example, and then I thought, actually, yeah, I'll do a quick example and then we can break into rooms and we can share with each other. But the way that I receive love, like the way that I best receive love, is through words of appreciation, quality time, and physical touch. So I don't really care about receiving acts of service. Like if someone tells me, I really love you and I can't be here for you right now helping you, what rings true for me is, I really love you. It's like, oh, my friend loves me even if they can't be here for me right now. But the way that I give is, I love doing acts of service for my friends and loved ones. And so I don't really share words of appreciation as much when I'm not able to offer them an act of service. So acts of service is not on my receiving spectrum, but in terms of my giving spectrum, I love giving touch, I love giving acts of service, and I love giving quality time. But I kind of feel shy in saying, oh, I love you and I can't be here for you right now. Like my first instinct in giving is, I have to be there for that person. But if the other person cannot be there for me and they tell me that they love me, that's enough for me. So I already have a dichotomy in how I give and how I receive. And what's really important in connections, regardless of whether this is a family member, a parent, a sister, or an intimate partner, or a friend, is really, it's really like always better to ask what your loved one needs and ask for what you need. So if someone is in need, maybe asking, what do you need right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need me to tell you that I'm proud of you? Or do you need me to go and fix that issue for you? What will make you feel loved and supported? Asking that simple question, never taking for granted, even if we know that our friends or partners' main love language is a hug, not taking for granted that in that moment, if they're struggling because they had a fight at work with their boss, or they're feeling lonely because of quarantine and we're in quarantine with them, not taking for granted that what they need in that moment is a hug, just because they've shared with us in the past, oh, my main love language is a hug. And also communicating with the other person, like, oh, I'm really struggling right now. And I know I told you that I love words of appreciation, but what I really need right now is you giving me your time while we watch a movie. Because I don't really want to talk right now, even though normally in a different circumstance, I would like to tell you that you love me. Right now, you can tell me that you love me by watching a movie in silence with me. It really, really changes depending on the circumstance and time of our life. And I think personally, the key is being curious about, with gestures of affection, your loved ones appreciate and respond accordingly. Like you respond accordingly to what your loved ones receive. And then be curious about your own experience and be curious about what you appreciate, and then ask for what you need. I like this one because it shows how to communicate verbally or non-verbally in case of physical touch, which actions to take and which things to avoid. And what I encourage people to share with each other is, first of all, what's the difference? Like make a reflection on how you receive and how you give love languages. And then if you're in partnership, and some of you are here in partnership already, which is great because then you can reflect that with each other. Like how you give and how you receive, and then the other person can also say how I give, and how I give and I receive, and how can you how can you better be curious about your loved one experience in giving and receiving love languages. Something that really resonated with me, that she was talking about her family and saying how like they don't know about the love languages, and if she was to ask them, they probably wouldn't know. But through observing what makes them happy and what she observes that makes them feel heard and loved, she can learn about their love languages, and in that way, sorry if I'm like paraphrasing wrong, but yeah, in that way, like observing and then doing more of what she notices that makes them feel happy. And that really resonated with me, because I think I'm used to be in a community in which if I ask people, what's your main love languages, or what do you need right now to feel loved and appreciated, they have that emotional intelligence to respond. But if I were to have this conversation with my parents, they also wouldn't know. So that was very insightful for me, like thinking, oh, I can observe, and I can learn just through observation. Yeah, that listening part, like listening deeply and listening attentively, and that non-response, like instead of reacting, responding from a place of, you said earlier, chill, grounding, that space, like giving space to that communication. I mean, when sometimes I'm on the phone with people and I'm cooking or cleaning or doing things, and I mean, if we're just chatting about the weather, great, but sometimes I'm not really giving them quality time, which I would be giving them if we were in person. If I was in person with someone talking to me about their broken heart, I wouldn't be cleaning and doing things, but because now everything or a lot of things are happening through the phone, I have to multitask. But sometimes even just saying, hey, I'm very sorry, I'm finding myself scattered because I'm cooking, even just witnessing that can make the other person feel more heard. I think what makes the giving part peculiar within the love language context is that it's little thoughtful gifts. Like a Burning Man, you might have the same gift for everyone. You meet someone and you have these little bottles of essential oils that you're giving when someone touches your heart, right? But within a one-on-one or a family connection, like we were talking also earlier with Jason and Vanessa, is like, it doesn't have to be like anything like of value, like financial value, but like knowing that that person thought of you and said, hey, this is something that I got for you. Sometimes other people make us notice what we do. Like I always thought that I didn't do acts of service for others. I was like, oh no, that's not my love language, because I don't receive acts of service as a main love language. And then my roommate made me notice, oh, but when your friends are here, you're always cooking for them, you're offering them food, you're showing them things, you're organizing activities for them. This is a way, like you're doing acts of service. I think one of your giving love language is acts of service, but I hear that you don't receive them. And she made me realize that. I was like, oh my God, it's true. Like when someone is in my home, like I have to give, I have to organize, I have to feed. Affirmation, when I was a kid, I crave for my mom to tell me, I love you and I'm proud of you. And her way of saying I love you and I'm proud of you was preparing me this little lunchbox for school. And at that time, it didn't resonate with me. And now as an adult, I do the same sometimes for my loved ones. And I'm sometimes very shy of saying I love you. So is it like when you do it, after, if you're able to get through that vulnerable part, how does it feel for you giving that words of appreciation? Yes. Almost like putting yourself, like getting out of your own comfort zone to share appreciation and love in a way that you know that the person will receive well. Well, we're wrapping up, and I was gonna share with everyone the link from the 5 Love Languages website. They have a series of quizzes. They're not just, so there is a different quiz whether you are single or you're in a relationship. And then there is a quiz for children and a quiz for teens. there is a specific book on how to use the love languages as a parent. Because I mean, imagine if we can raise kids who have the emotional intelligence to know how they better receive and how they better give, and having those conversations as kids with the parents, I think would be very healing. And also they have quizzes for forgiveness language. So there is not only love language, they came up also with apology and anger languages. So we all have different ways of expressing anger, which is something that, I mean, I found very fascinating, and I really learned about like that during the radical honesty workshop. It was like, oh, well, how is your relationship with anger? How do you express and receive anger? And as well, how do you express and receive apologies? So if you want to explore that more, I put together a Facebook group for just supporting each other. And like I call it Spread Love, Not Fear. So some of you are already in there. If you want to be part of it, feel free to add me on Facebook. I put my Facebook in there, and we can just also support each other. And just thank you for coming today, and thank you for sharing with each other.